Hello everyone and happy holidays. Welcome to the Porn in the Valley meets Porn News Today annual porn news wrap up. Now let's go ahead and move on to June now. Now there was a study put out to where they did actually find that porn does shrink your brain. And that smaller brains tend to crave porn.
Right. Well, I said either way, it's not good news. You know, if you're looking at porn, it either means that you have a diminished brain capacity or you're getting one. So I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, this is a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but I do kind of wonder if all the free porn is really an effort to dumb down the population.
Well, I mean, we've seen that it has. It's not what it used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. Well, I guess another thing that we'll touch on in regards to June is that, well, Rihanna really has been marketed like soft porn at this stage.
Yeah, and we weren't even the ones who said that. Somebody else said it, but it's definitely, you know, what happened to our musicians? I mean,
they're all porn
nudity.
now. It's just, I mean, now it's like who can do porn without doing porn?
Right, and you know, I keep saying it's porn. You know, you can't change the definition. Nudity. And, you know, showing some of the things that they've shown is definitely porn. So they're at least soft porn stars at the very least.
Yeah, and I guess we can end June with, well, this story hit not close home to me, but just because this girl reached out to me, Karmen Karma, she's one of our victims of 2014. She came out in regards to dealing with some pretty serious physical abuse while working in the porn industry. And her story actually is, kind of link to an even more crazy story that happened with another porn star. But what I thought was interesting about Karmen Karma was that she had a very similar look to another porn star who we'll talk about, Christy Mack. And it's something with these girls and all these tattoos getting, you know, just the shit beat out of them by these guys. And it seems like these tattoos somehow are like a mark that says, hey, you can beat this girl. That's kind of something that we were noticing in 2014. I mean, between Skin Diamond, Karmen Karma, Christy Mack.
Well, and then Sasha Grey came out and said that she was abused by her boyfriend, and he's the one who recruited and pushed her into porn.
Yep, and that was one of Mark Spiegler's top girls, and I find it very interesting that we did not hear much about the Sasha Grey situation. For some reason, the Christy Mack situation with War Machine took precedence in the news, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's get to July.
Well, this kind of relates back to Skin Diamond. We were just talking about her. Now, in July was a kind of a big month for me because I got to interview an Olympic silver medalist. That was a big thing to me. But the only reason was because he he almost got trapped in the porn, you know, whirlpool of death by TMZ. And that's something that we've been talking about for a while, how closely TMZ seems to be linked with the porn industry. It's like every time we turn around, there's a porn star being promoted like a regular Hollywood celebrity on TMZ. And that's not the right message to send to teenagers and the young people. Porn stars are not Hollywood celebrities.
Well, and they're either promoting them or they're tearing them down, depending on, you know, what the industry wants to do with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, we've seen them, you know, show plenty of mugshots and, you know, drunken brawls and different things,
well, like
too.
With Tori Black, they tore her down, and I think it was because she was getting ready to try to escape her pimp. Basically, you know, they say it's her boyfriend, but I think otherwise. And but then, you know, Skin Diamond, she lets them beat her to death. So of course she gets all kinds of positive press on TMZ, and they tried to link her with this young man with what I perceived to have been a very bright future.
Right,
and they were saying that, what were they saying? They were saying that all he wanted in life, or he would have given up his silver medal for a date with Skin Diamond.
Right, and he said, yeah, he never said that.
He never said that.
Yeah, and basically, you know, it's the old trick that they do. He, as you said, he was up and coming Olympian, and you know, he was getting press time, and so the porn industry, being the leeches they are, and they used TMZ to do it, just latched right onto his name and decided that they would try and get some press by, you know, attaching him to a porn star. Yeah. And you know, luckily he was a good young man he doesn't want to be attached to anything to do with porn. He's smart. So you tell the rest of it, because you did the interview.
Yeah, well, I did the interview. Again, if anyone wants to watch that interview, you can go to youtube.com, Monica at Home. It's one of my most recent videos, I think. But yeah, that was a very strange situation. They tried to link him with Skin Diamond. Then when he did the interview with me, I actually contacted TMZ basically to say, hey, leave this young man alone. And then they came back out with another porn star that they wanted to promote, and they linked her name to him. It was just too much. It was crazy. The whole thing, that was weird. But it does go to show, like what you were saying, that the porn industry will try to link themselves to anything to get free publicity. And TMZ is a big culprit in allowing that to happen. So now let's go to August. Now in August, that was when Sasha Grey came out about being sex trafficked into the porn industry. And that, for some reason, was not very talked about very much in the media, and I believe that it's because she was one of the main cash cows for porn agent Mark Spiegler. Mark Spiegler is a porn agent who, again, is someone who's very closely affiliated and attached to our stalkers, and he tends to be one of the porn agents that specifically sends the girls to kink. He seems to be very protected. Yeah, Skin Diamond's one of the girls who's been sent to kink quite a bit. We've seen the beatings, you know, we've you know, it's crazy. But Sasha Grey, now was Sasha Grey a big kink performer? I really don't know.
No, and I mean, she is the one who they've taken into the mainstream, and she was on The View, and you know, it all came out, but she was doing a reading program with elementary children.
I remember that. That was weird.
Right. So no, she was very clean cut. You know, kind of on the edge. She had done hardcore porn, obviously, but had gone to, you know, the other side as far as being able to market herself as, you know, a career woman in porn. And so to, you know, from that to, you know, all this that came out with her, and as you said with Sasha Grey, is the media never talked about her story.
No. Instead, the media focused on the Christy Mack War Machine situation, which was that's another one that was crazy. Now, War Machine, for those of you who aren't aware, is an MMA fighter, and Christy Mack, porn star, kind of like a white version of Skin Diamond when I really think about it, with all the tattoos and whatnot. Yeah. And War Machine basically beat her within 2 inches of her life. She could have died. She had her teeth knocked out. I think something happened with her eye socket. Ripped out a whole lot of her hair by the root. I'm not sure what else, but right now he is in a Las Vegas jail. Funny how all this is in Las Vegas, you know. Right. But he's in a Las Vegas jail right now. I haven't even kept up with the with what's going on with the court case as of current. I know that recently Christy Mack testified, and supposedly War Machine was laughing while she did her testimony. Yeah.
Not surprising
so,
at all.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how long of jail time he does, because I just have this crazy suspicion that he's not going to do much jail time at all. I think it might end up being home arrest. It'll be some reason, because I mean, he is an MMA fighter, whether he's, you know, been released from his Bellator contract or not. Yeah, he's got some friends.
Well, and it's domestic violence, and we know that domestic violence isn't taken seriously.
And plus, she's a porn star.
Right. So you have domestic violence, which, you know, in and of itself isn't taken seriously enough in this country. And then you have, it's a celebrity because he is, you know, a wrestler. And then you've got her who's a porn star. And I mean, we even saw there were, you know, bloggers on the internet who were saying she deserved what she got because she was with him and doing porn. And, you know, I mean,
I never had the feeling that she was really that into him, because there was something I noticed on a previous interview that I noticed a lot of people don't want to talk about, but I caught it, and I might even splice the clip of it into this webcast, to where she was recounting how she met him. And I think that they were initially, that she was basically paid to date him. Yeah. Because that porn company, the Pooba Network, that she's affiliated with, really receives such a tremendous amount of free publicity, specifically to the young men who are fans of MMA because of their relationship. When she was recounting how they met, she was like, "Oh, it was supposed to be for a either a Penthouse or a Hustler shoot." And I was thinking, why would they have put a man war machine in Penthouse or Hustler? It's about the girl. It's not about the guy. Right. And, yeah. You know, so that was a little bit weird, but supposedly she's saying like, "Oh, I was paying an obscene amount of money in order to be in the shoot with him because he didn't want to shoot with anyone but me, and he stalked me on Twitter." So it's like, okay, you got this guy who was stalking you on Twitter, had an obscene amount of money paid to do this shoot with you. Right. And he's already acting crazy, you know, and plus he had the track record. Remember how he beat the shit out of Derek Hay? Excuse me. There goes the language thing. But, but years ago, he was at a porn party because War Machine was in the porn industry. This was actually his second time dealing with the porn people, which is something that's weird. Because I think it was in the early 2000s. For some reason, he started doing the porn. He basically, I guess you could say, he's a sex trafficking victim. But he was brought into the porn. He did a few movies. Claimed that Derek Hay promised him more work than he was actually given. Yeah. Got angry with him. Always the truth. Went to a party and beat up like 3 or 4 different guys at this porn party, was ostracized from the porn industry, but then they let him back. And what happens? He almost kills a girl. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe this isn't even the end of it. They might let him back in again.
And the MMA, let's face it, has been connected to the porn industry for some time. They were connected. They were connected when I first went in. I mean, Greg Valentine was an MMA wrestler, and he was at the Christmas party like a month and a half after we went into the porn industry. So I met quite a few of them there, and they were matching the girls up with the guys. So, you know, I mean, these young girls, a lot of times they don't realize that when somebody's stalking you on Twitter, you need to run the other direction. You know, it's not infatuation. It's not a sign of adoration.
It's obsession.
It's obsession, and it's compulsive. It's compulsive, and it's not a good thing. So it usually ends up being dangerous. And you know, but again, we don't talk enough about this in our country, domestic violence, and that's exactly what happened here. I mean, they were living together. They were in a relationship, and he put her in the hospital and almost killed her.
And what's funny is that as soon as it came into the media in regards to Christy Mack and War Machine, the girl who we mentioned earlier, Karmen Karma, it turned out that War Machine was also talking to her.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're all connected. They all socialize together, and it can be quite volatile.
Yeah,
definitely.
Now, I guess we can close out August by mentioning that one of the men who was at the pedophile luncheon, Christian Mann, he died in August.
Right.
He was I think the vice president of kink.com, so he died.
Yeah.
Anyway, in September, let's see. So, I guess, to me, the big story of September, there's two. Now, HIV positive John Stagliano, he impregnated a porn star who was fairly recently active, which is very scary. That means that you have, now for those of you who aren't aware, John Stagliano, he's the head of Evil Angel. That's a porn studio. He's been known to be HIV positive for a long time. He's actually, he was the defendant in a case launched by Katie Summers and her boyfriend Rob Black. I think that case also wound up getting settled out of court. I'm not sure what the ending was with that. But anyway, John Stagliano, even though he's HIV positive, for some reason he feels that he can touch girls in the industry who are HIV negative. And as we now know, he doesn't just touch them, he has sex with them, at least according to Sheena Shaw. She's pregnant with his baby. We all should pray that the baby comes out okay, really.
Right.
So that was a big story for September. Also an even bigger story was Britney Spears' fiance getting caught having an affair with a porn star by the name of Cali Lee, who can be found on the Luxury Companion.
There you go. It's all intertwined. I mean, we've already seen that there's escorting agencies in Hollywood. They've been exposed. And, the celebrities, they also use escorting agencies in the porn industry. And that, I mean, we see that a lot. Going back to Miley Cyrus and her ex-fiance, Liam. He introduced her to some pimps in Porn Valley, and you see what happened. They broke up, and Miley's been on a downward spiral ever since. So I say, you learn a lesson. Keep your girls away from Porn Valley.
If you can. I mean, really, the latest Miley news from what we were just talking about the other night, she's dating Arnold or is allegedly dating Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. But
right.
We have to we all have to keep in mind that Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point in time was basically an adult actor. Now he's becomes governor, which is weird. But anyway,
well, he's not the governor now, but he was the governor
now,
for quite some time. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I mean, he was in Hollywood for years. Big celebrity, huge celebrity, and he's had his fair share of run-ins with sexual harassment complaints filed and lawsuits because of misogynistic behavior. So we're still in the same world there.
Well, I mean, at one point in time, he was hanging out with Christian Mann, the guy who we just mentioned that died in August. There's pictures of them together. Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is he hanging out with a guy who runs kink? What are you doing, Schwarzenegger? I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, and I mean, we'll get into that, soon. But I mean, that goes into Cosby and the Hugh Hefner thing, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
I mean, in October, trafficking, as you were talking about before, trafficking was basically outed as not being a priority at the borders. And and another came out was the fact that teens are saying that
they hear all the time about their teen friends being sexually assaulted and sexually abused. That it's a common occurrence amongst teens, and they all know it's happening to each other. They talk about it amongst themselves, but nobody else seems to know about it or want to know about it enough to start doing something about it. But we know that that's spurred on from porn. You know, watching porn. They're trying to recreate porn, and that isn't the way sex is supposed to be had, and teenagers are hurting each other.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And, you know, the porn has started to become almost like a form of sex education for these kids, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
All right, so November. Now, I guess really the top story for November has been the Cosby sex scandal situation, because that does definitely link to the porn industry. You know, Hugh Hefner is trying to distance himself. As all of you know, Hugh Hefner is who's behind Playboy. But he can't do that, because when all this was going on, he and Cosby were pretty much BFFs. So.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you're right. Everybody's trying to distance that. The media's really not talking about it. We've had, I mean, I've lost track, and I think everybody else has, because I'm not even sure which ones are which anymore when they're talking about all the victims. Excuse me. But I know there's been 25 plus I've seen in the news, valid sources. And I just lost my total train of thought.
Well, Dr. Phil just interviewed one of the most recent victims, and it's funny because I was just tweeting the night before. I was like, "Well, gosh, I want to interview Cosby and see what he had to say about all this." As long as Dr. Phil and Anderson Cooper could be there, because I feel like those two men. I don't know why I think that, but sure enough, the next day, Dr. Phil did an exclusive interview with one of the victims who was a minor at the time, and that really is the biggest shocker when it comes to the Cosby allegations to me. I mean, all of it's shocking, but the fact that he was messing with underage girls. I mean, the LAPD, the district attorney's office, just recently came out in the news saying that they were not going to go forward with Judy Huth's allegations. Right. She was 15 when she encountered Cosby, but what the media doesn't seem to say is that she wasn't the only 15-year-old. There's another one by the name of Regina Cheney Hill, and I just posted her on Porn News today in regards to this. She was 15 when she encountered Cosby.
Well, and what I noticed is, I mean, the media played that up real big. Oh, the prosecutor refused. The statute of limitations was up. Right. So they couldn't, you know, if he wanted to, if he had all the evidence in the world, he couldn't because statute of limitation. But the headlines did tend to look like, oh, they don't want it, it's no good.
And that wasn't the case. It was because that so much time had gone by, but now you have this one girl from 2008.
Yes, yeah, and that's within the statute of limitations. According to what I read, he could do 4 years and $10,000 fine for that. It was not a sexual rape. He sexually assaulted her, molestation, I guess it would be considered, licking her toes and her breasts. And drugging her first and then doing so, and that's really
drugging. I mean, really, what a lot of people aren't aware of. But I did write an article about this on Porn News today. In 1974, Hugh Hefner was under investigation. There's a federal probe into him in regards to drugs. So I kind of wonder. You know, was it Hefner who taught Cosby about how to do all this mixing with the drugs and the, medications? Because
going back to, I'm 54. I grew up in the 70s. That was my teen years. And, we went through the sexual revolution of the 60s. And then I tend to say, in the 70s, we dealt with sexual perversion. Because, all the boundaries were gone, and everybody was doing whatever they wanted, and there were a lot of young teenage girls that were sexually molested and raped. A lot of assault that went on back then. And, you know, so, and drugs, you know, we had the Quaaludes. That was, and roofies, you know, Quaaludes and roofies was the date drug back when I was growing up. And I mean, I've been drugged and raped. Okay, so, you know, yeah, I grew up in the 70s. I was a teenager back then. And Quaaludes, roofies, those were the date drugs back then. And it was very prevalent. I mean, we had the sexual revolution of the 60s. And then, you know, I always say the 70s, we went into the sexual perversions. There were no boundaries. Everybody was doing, you know, they were doing whatever they wanted. And there was really no conventions left, and that left a lot of young teenage girls as easy prey, because back then we didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about this kind of stuff going on. So, you know, the fact that Bill Cosby was best friends with Hugh Hefner, and I mean, we find all kinds of imagery. There's photos everywhere. Yeah. And documentation.
There was that one girl that he was connected to, Paige Young. That's quite a story, and you have that posted on porninthevalley.com. Right. She was a young woman who was a Playboy bunny who was connected to Cosby, and she wound up committing suicide in 1974. And she had photos of Hugh Hefner plastered all over her walls, and scrawled on the photos said, "Hugh Hefner is the devil." Yeah. So something happened.
Yeah, and she put an American flag down on the bed, and that's where she killed herself. Yep. And because, and I've said this recently in my posts, is, you know, we are American sacrifices. That's what the women in sex industries are.
Yes.
We are American sacrifices, and we're being sacrificed so men can beat off and buy sex from strangers and rent body parts.
Yeah.
And, you know, and nobody wants to look at Hugh Hefner as a pornographer.
And he is a pornographer.
He's a pornographer. And Playboy does hardcore porn. They don't just do the iconic, you know, softcore, elegant women magazines, which it's not even that iconic anymore. I mean, it's gone,
you know, a hardcore porn line, and they had it for some time. And, you know, speaking of Playboy, we have to also talk about Donny Pauling, who was connected with the XXX Church. Because,
he was
just like Cosby being with the minors. Yeah, he was an ex-Playboy producer, and he was just arrested for allegedly being with a minor.
Under 14 or under, or under 14
at that time. Yeah. And he worked for the Playboy porn line.
Right.
He was always bragging to his friends, "Oh yeah, I'm a pornographer for Playboy." So Playboy is porn. It's not just like the girls next door.
No, I myself shot 2 scenes for Playboy. One of them still shows on Playboy TV. Unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. But you know, I shot for them twice, and it was definitely hardcore porn, and it's on TV at night, so people do see hardcore porn from Playboy.
Yep. So, and one thing that I do wonder about that Donny Pauling situation, I'm wondering how many people, when he was an active pornographer, were aware of his proclivity for pedophilia. I think quite a few, you know.
Well, I mean, you got to understand the pornographers have been looking at women having sex for 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. They go for something different. I mean, that's what a porn addict and sex addict does. It escalates because of the fact that, you know, you inundate your brain with the same thing over and over, so it has to go for more.
Well, so speaking of that, maybe that's the situation with Kendra Wilkinson's husband, Hank Baskett. That relates to Playboy too. As many of the viewers probably know, Kendra recently has been dealing with a media scandal. Her husband was found to be having an association, or he was having sex with it, with a transsexual, And well, he admitted it on Kendra on Top. He did finally admit it.
Right.
But what's crazy about the whole thing is that on the show, Kendra goes to Hugh Hefner for marriage advice, and he basically tells her to stay with him. But then,
that he was set up. Yeah, he's
that Hank was set up.
Yeah.
I guess the surveillance cameras somehow, I guess they use computer animation and special effects.
Well, I mean, we all have temptation in life. The point is be man enough to be able to, not go after it. So avoid temptation.
Kendra didn't sign up for that, and we all know it. We also know, or at least think, that Hefner pretty much sold her to Baskett as a breed.
Yeah,
but
it's a sad situation, and obviously he's not into women. So we have no idea why he ended up with her, if he's into transsexuals. So, but I mean, again, if that's what you want to do in a marriage, that's between you and your wife. But you're supposed to talk about it before you get married.
Well, I think Kendra is waking up, because even though they put the Hugh Hefner marriage advice clip up after she talked about Hefner sexually, I would have to say that clip was actually filmed a few months prior to him coming out, to her coming out about Hefner.
Right.
It was, I believe it was November 25th that Kendra decided to talk to the media and talk about how basically being with Hugh Hefner was a job, to where she clocked in and clocked out when it was time to have sex with him. But then you have to look at Kendra's history of how she went from such a young girl, just being an 18-year-old stripper, to immediately moving into the Playboy mansion. I mean, from my perspective, Kendra Wilkinson is the ultimate sex trafficking victim in plain sight.
Yes, in plain sight. I've said this before. She went to the Playboy mansion at 18. They don't just wake up on their 18th birthday and go, I want to go be, a Playboy bunny, or I'm going to go work at the mansion. Mm-hmm. She had to have been recruited, and she had to have talked to them beforehand in order for all of this to have, taken place when she turned 18. Yep. So then she turns 18 and goes there. She's living in a controlled, protected environment, where she can't do or go anywhere without, his direction. And basically he didn't pay them. They talked about it. They were paid, a very small allowance, because if he paid them a salary and was having sex with them, because it was basically prostitution, they worked there, they lived there, and had to have sex with him as part of the deal. But if they put that in a contract and paid them a salary, it would be prostitution. So basically, they did it all for free, which makes it even worse. And she's saying that she had to do drugs and drink alcohol in order to get through it.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is, what is a sex trafficking victim? Fraud. Oh, you're going to have this great, fabulous, fame-filled life and make all this money.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, her marriage is a fraud too. I don't believe that she had any idea that her husband was going to be what he's turned out to be.
No.
And, she met him through Hugh Hefner, pretty much, at the Playboy mansion.
Right,
so,
right.
That's a sad situation.
Yeah, and I mean, she hasn't had a chance to grow up and know what normalcy is, and, so to have expectations of what is normal, but you can tell she knows this isn't a normal marriage.
Right.
And this isn't the way it's supposed to be, and that's why she's unhappy. And, of course, Hugh Hefner, because his job is to enslave women and exploit them, is telling her, oh, you need to just go be the good woman, stand by your man, and just accept that he likes to go do transsexuals on the side here and there.
Well, what I thought was funny on the show was that when she was talking to her mother, for some reason and I mentioned this to you earlier, for some reason she brought up that she felt that Hank and his family were old-fashioned, but sorry, that transsexual thing. Kendra, if you ever see this, that's not old-fashioned.
Well, and she has no idea what an old-fashioned family is.
No, she doesn't. So that's sad. So, yeah, going back to Cosby, for some reason, the media really doesn't seem to be pushing too hard on his link to Hugh Hefner. A few online blogs and periodicals have mentioned it. But
yeah, the secondary market is all talking about it. But I mean, he's got, I believe, 3 victims now from the Playboy Mansion at least.
I think 12, because that one woman came forward. She said that there were 12 playmates that he attacked or messed with.
Well, now I'm just talking about the ones that have come forward. But then the one, she says that there's 12 more that are afraid to come forward. And I understand that. I mean, it's not an easy time. I mean,
no,
you know,
I mean, as famous and renowned as Janice Dickinson is, it took Beverly Johnson to come out to back up her story.
Right.
And really, in the end, you know, I don't know how far they're going to push this or how far this is even going to go, but I think it might come out that somehow Cosby was involved in a circuit of models who were being pimped.
Right. And you know, and I've said
whether
this
they knew it or not.
Well, and that's what I've said many times is, you know, a lot of times there's deals being made between agents and producers and executives and, you know, celebrity stars, and, you know, they're making these deals and the girls don't know. I mean, all these girls, you know, the consistency with their story that I know is, you know, a fact on the way it works is that they're sent to this guy's house, room, you know, dressing room, trailer, whatever, saying, oh, he's going to mentor you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you're lucky that, you know, you've caught his attention and you're going to be a star now. Yeah. Well, you know, the point is that there should not be pain in order to gain fame.
I like that. That's true. Yeah. There should not be pain in order to gain fame.
No. And this, you know, the casting couch, it's still alive and well. And I mean, all this coming out is back in the 70s. But then you also got to look at the one that just came out from the 80s. You know, I mean, we're moving closer, and I'm sure there's more stuff. I mean, you've seen me, I've tweeted you a couple times with Roman Polanski.
Yeah, I reposted that picture of him with Hefner, and it's crazy.
And Woody Allen, there's another one. You know, I mean, I've just begun this little game, you know. But I mean, all you got to do is look, and you know, I'm sorry, but Camille Cosby, you know, and her daughter, they're wanting to say that Cosby is just like we all thought he was. And he was just.
And that's the problem. No, because Bill Cosby is an actor. Bill Cosby is not the character. Cliff Huxtable, and I made a blog specifically about this.
Yeah.
Because that is actually something that I think really has led to the confusion of mainstream media, or not mainstream, mainstream media, the mainstream public, everyone who grew up watching The Cosby Show. I mean, first off, why was that show called The Cosby Show when the actual family that the show centered around was called the Huxtables?
Right.
Yes, the comedian who played Cliff Huxtable, his name was Bill Cosby, but that confused people because people think they're like, some people I think actually think that the Cosby kids on the show are his actual children.
Right. Oh, you know, I mean,
there's people who think that. So that's not the case. He is not Cliff Huxtable. And for his daughter to come to the public and be like, my dad is the father that you knew him to be,
Well, and I go back to, I'm sorry, but a loving husbands, loving fathers, and Cliff Huxtable himself, the role, never was best friends with a pornographer and did not spend his weekends. I mean, at the
Playboy Mansion,
hanging out with girls that they're, you know, I mean, it's public knowledge that they've pimped so many of these girls.
Yeah.
You know. So, I mean, this is not a loving husband and father. It's just not. You know, not they don't.
Well, you know, there was an article, and a lot of people might not have seen this, but you know, Cosby does have, I think, 3 other daughters. I wasn't even aware of this, and none of them have said anything. Only the I think it's the youngest, who has come out to defend her dad. And what's ironic about that is that there are allegations of Cosby having been willing to sell a media story to the tabloids about his daughter being a drug addict in order to cover up his swinging with Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, and that was another daughter, and I think it's really sad. I mean, whatever a dad does, kids are going to love their dads, and you know, you understand why she wants to protect him. But, you know, the truth of the matter is that it shows very poor judgment on his part to allow his daughter to have done that. I would never let my children come out and defend me. I would never expect my children to come out and get into this mess.
Well, he's also hiding behind his skin color, because this is not an issue about black or white, and I really don't like the way that the mainstream media seems to be attempting to turn this into a racial issue. This is an issue in regards to the war on women and the power plays that men, specifically in Hollywood, do play when it comes to young women who are, you know, trying to make a name for themselves, or, you know, whatever it is that they're trying to do. So that's a problem too. I feel like for him to ask for black media neutrality, well, on my last post about Cosby that I put on Porn News Today, I ended it by saying that this is a black-owned blog, because it is, and you're not getting any media neutrality from me. So.
Well, and Beverly Johnson said that, you know, she hesitated coming forward because she said, you know, black men have such a hard time anyway, you know, and that this, you know, he's an iconic figure for, you know, that group. But, you know, I said I grew up with him. I remember, and he bridged the gap between blacks and whites. And I didn't think, when I heard Bill Cosby did this, and I started reading and I saw, you know, what was happening. And I mean, you can't deny it after, you know, so long. But, you know, at some point, all I thought was, that man's a rapist. You know, I didn't think anything about his race at all. I'm just going, that man's a rapist.
Yeah, and you know, he's been all across the board with the different types of women too that he's attacked. It hasn't been all white women or all black women. You know, he was just all over the place.
Right.
But, all right. Well, I guess let's end on a kind of a positive note, because I think that this year has ended kind of positively.
Oh yeah, a lot happening.
Now, the UK banned BDSM acts in December. That was quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you know, seeing the articles that come out, the sex workers over there, which again, we know this is all funded by, you know, the pimps and the pornographers and the girls that are, you know, working for them. Is, you know, I mean, they're saying, well, they've banned my right to have, you know, my kind of sex. Well, you know, I'm sorry, but urinating on people, painting people, whipping people, this is not sex. There's nothing normal or healthy about it. And, you know, so it's just hilarious when you read, you know, the fight that they're trying to make. You know, I mean, we're over here fighting the 50 Shades of Grey, you know, that the trailer was released this year on, and I would love to see the U.S. do the same ban. I mean, you know, this is violence, and it's perversion, okay? Urinating on people is just not an alternative lifestyle, which is what they want to call it, you know? It's not an alternative lifestyle, it's a perversion. And sadism and masochism is a mental disorder. They're mental disorders. It's a sexual disorder, and it's being turned on by...
Well, they want everyone to be dysfunctional. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah. In the UK, they put their foot down, so that was a win.
Yes.
Now, also, Measure B, like we mentioned before, was ruled as being constitutional. So, you know, that was basically Steve Hirsch getting what he deserved in regards to some of the things that I think he did to Farrah Abraham. And that little thing, that's not here yet. That's right. That girl, something's going to end up happening with her. But let's see. Oh, Corey Feldman. This kind of goes into Hollywood, but it does go back to the pedophilia, which we know is a problem in the porn industry. Yeah. He's come forward here. Well, you actually told me about that, so you talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, Corey Feldman just came out. It's a documentary that they're releasing on Hollywood. It's Corey Feldman and I guess 4 other victims of a pedophilia ring in Hollywood. So definitely we want to watch that. People need to, you know, wake up to the fact that this is happening and we're watching it on TV. Yeah. So, you know, this is stuff that they're doing behind the scenes, but it's all in our TV too. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's huge. I mean, they're talking about it. So it's a start. You know, we need more people talking about this.
Yeah, definitely, because the children do need to be protected. And when I look at these Disney stars who have grown up and gone nuts, basically, like Miley Cyrus, Britney Spears.
Well, and just a brief aside on that is that Dr. Luke and Kesha, lawsuit. Dr. Luke and Kesha, she's suing him for rape, sexual assault, harassment, you know, all part of it. And you look at all the big stars
I think all these
that have gone crazy are under this producer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that these young stars have been severely molested. These Disney kids, I think they have been sexualized, molested. Lindsay Lohan, I think that she's one of them. I wouldn't be surprised to hear her come out or something one day.
Well, they get them high on drugs. They get them hooked on the drugs, and then they start exploiting them, and they exploit them amongst their own little networks, and it's all coming out.
He was saying I was 14 and I was literally surrounded. I mean, that's crazy. That is just it's frightening.
It is, and it's happening every day. And, you know, I'm glad it's all starting to come out, because until we start talking about it, you know, we can't change it. So,
well, you know, I mean, even South Park, because South Park had touched on it. You were telling me about that. Yeah, and I saw the clips. But they even animated Bill Cosby trying to get, what's that girl's name?
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, yeah.
Yeah, giving her a glass of wine and I mean, it was just kind of reenacting it. You know, it was animated, and I know South Park's out there, but they have a lot of good messages in there. What they're talking about.
And then they have Michael Jackson. His ghost came back, but he was saying to save the children.
Yeah, need to protect the children. Need to protect the children. But yeah, I mean, you know, it actually kind of by animating it and showing it, it at least visualized how it was, and I think that helps people really understand, because it's hard to accept, but it is happening. You know, one last thing too to talk about is the Jada Pinkett Smith documentary that she's working on in the sex industries. Yes. She was going into strip clubs and interviewing girls that were in there, young girls, teens, and young women, and talking to them about how they got into the industry and why they got into the sex industries. And basically what she's finding out is that our entertainment industries are propagating this. They're promoting sex work as glamour and fame and, you know, a whole lot of fun and partying. And then the girls get into the sex industries and they realize that, you know,
they can't get out.
Yeah, they can't get out. I mean, you know what we've gone through. It's not easy. I mean, you know, I have a job and I work and I'm getting by, but I can't get ahead because of the fact that this all follows me. Yes. And you know, people talk about how, well, we're out here in the public, so, you know, that's what we expect, but we didn't ask to be in the public. It's not where it started.
No, and a part of the reason that we have been so public with everything that's been happening to us is so that our, you know, acquaintances, fans, followers can basically see if we suddenly disappear, something's wrong. You know,
they can also see, like doing these shows, they can see we are okay, we're doing good. You know, it's not an easy life to be a whistleblower, and it's not an easy life to be an activist. But you know, I'd rather have that than the money that you know, those girls have, and what they've gone through. You know, so I was real glad to see Jada Pinkett Smith, you know, addressing that issue and bringing that out too. So we have a lot of voices being heard in 2014, and I think 2015 is, you know, gonna really well,
let's end with Isadore Hall. Let's talk about his election to the California Senate, because he's kind of been our champion in the political sphere when it comes to at least getting the legislation being heard by the people that it needs to be heard by. You know, and again, he's with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, so that was I think that 2015 will be quite the interesting year for the porn industry, being that now he's a senator rather than only an assemblyman.
Oh, so. I do. I hope to see good things come from there. I know that the bill, that one bill, that's where it eventually died in the end run, was in the Senate. And so hoping that maybe by him being there, maybe he'll champion some more of these causes and start cleaning California up. I mean, you know, we've got Hollywood, Porn Valley, you've got Kink up there in San Francisco. And I mean, San Francisco is nothing but dungeons. There's all kinds of this stuff going on all over this. So, you know, they need to clean that up, because they're sending their stuff all over our world. And we don't want that smut anymore. So I see a lot of good things happening.
Yeah, well, I think there's going to be a lot of positive change in 2015. I think there's going to be quite a few more very interesting news items that come out. But I think we're on a pretty good track.
Yes, we are. We're headed in the right direction now, and that's means a lot. People are waking up, they're seeing it, and voices are being heard, and it's making changes.
Yes. Well, you know, I guess that's about it for our annual Porn in the Valley meets Porn News Today wrap-up, Porn News wrap-up. We went through a lot of things and everything.
Hey.
We do want to thank all of you for joining us with our holiday wrap-up. Neither of us really makes video blogs like we used to anymore, but we do maintain our adult industry related news blogs, and we're both involved in other projects and just living our lives happily, quietly, you know, all that kind of good stuff.
So, thank you very much, Diana, for joining me today with this, and
thanks for having me. I'm so glad that we talked about this and made it, you know, actually happen. I'm you know, love that we have all our followers and friends and fans that are out there working hard to, you know, help push this issue through. And I'm just glad that I've got you, that we can do this sometimes and, you know, have a good time with it.
All right. Well, happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas. May Jesus Christ be with you. And remember that you can get through anything in life as long as you just keep moving forward.
That's right. Amen.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Happy 2015.